Hi Mark, great session as always. I just thought this one would be better on a little video rather than the images, as we need to look at some of the dynamics of the golf swing as they relate to accumulator 3. The move on the left is the move that historically you've tried to combat. This is taken in September. It's not as severe as it would normally be, but again that club sort of encroaches too near to the right shoulder. You can see here that it's much deeper or shallower at that point, sort of getting more mid-bicep. And we were talking about how this relates to accumulator 3, releasing more, and the effects that has as accumulator 3 releases too much too soon and continues to do so during the downswing. The club is pulled out in front. The club tends to go onto the left arm. At its worst, the shaft would be mid left arm at this point. So this is not as bad as it is. You can draw your irons nicely from there. You've got enough downward to give you the outward. But generally speaking, you struggle with your driver with that sort of move. This move, accumulator 3, is much more under control. You can see as a result the shaft gets onto the right forearm at 5.5, passes through the right forearm, and gets just inside the hands. From there you don't need as much downward to create the outward, so the angle of attack can shallow with the irons if you desire. You just use ball position, your weight location, etc. as a variable to give you more or less draw in that instance. But certainly from there you're making it much easier to get the club on the inside with the longer clubs. You can see that accumulator 3 is in a different position. If we just run that through a little bit further, the shaft continues to tumble forward. The swing direction at 6.5 is much more from the inside. And then as we come through, you can see that the right wrist is far less uncocked and bowled on the way through. This look you have on the way through, almost like we call that like a VJ release, is very typical of yourself, well, or anybody, when they roll 3 too much. So with yourself there's a severe uncocking and a rolling of 3. That rolling of 3 is ongoing from P4. Actually, we're just going to show you some other footage that we used the other day, and we actually see that it's in completion of the backswing. 3 starts to release, continues to get a little bit ahead of itself during the downswing. Add to that the quick uncocking of the wrists, and that really emphasises that roll on the way through. The move on the right is much quieter, handle raising less quickly. I did say on the day that the move you made on the right was as good as I've seen you put all the pieces together in the time that I've been working with you. Your understanding is good, you know where you want to put the club, but you demonstrated it beautifully on that particular swing, so that's the reason I've got that one up. You got accumulator 3, much more under control, and you went from a much more disciplined looking P4. So, you know, what was the advice given here? I'm just going to get your other swing on the day up, where you got a little bit long. Generally speaking, that's just you doing the drill. Generally speaking, your P4 gets a little bit long, and this is particularly relevant where your driver's concerned. We have discussed this before about controlling the length at which you take the club back, and this is the reason for doing it. If we watch what happens as the swing gets longer, accumulator 3 starts to twist. So at this point, the back of the left wrist, back of the left hand, the grip, if you will, is pointing in a certain direction. And if we continue to come down in that sort of condition, we'd be in a pretty good spot. What happens with yourself is, as the club gets taken further back, the back of the left twists, the back of the left hand twists. We're now in a completely different position in relation to accumulator 3. and from there it depends what you do in the downswing, but you can see there it sort of continues to hold the condition it was in, really, and it's always just that little bit steep, that little bit released, pulling the club out in front of you, just a fraction, just enough to cause you trouble. Here your advice was on the right was to swing to 3.7 and stop. At 3.7, accumulator 3 is in a certain condition, and remember what we want with the system. We want to hold accumulator 3 in that condition throughout the downswing, so certainly up until P6. So there's no steepening of 3. The angle that 3's on, let's take that back a little bit further, is maintained certainly from P4, or P3.7 is the field, but P4 really. So the shorter the arm travels on the way back, the shorter P4 is for you, the less steepening of the shaft, the releasing, if you will, of accumulator 3, or certainly the change in condition occurs from where I would like you at the top to where you go a little bit long. There's a twisting of the shaft at that point. As the shaft twists, accumulator 3's condition changes. It's then maintained in the early part of the downswing, and you've two options from there now. You either continue in that vein, the club tumbles in front of you, gets on the left arm, or we learn to shallow it out, which we did in this one, just as we're coming in 5.5 to 6. You see the head appears to work back towards the camera, right shoulder drops down a little bit, and you're actually getting a nice position at delivery there. You get the club inside, but that's not the most efficient way of doing it. The most efficient way of doing it is as demonstrated here on the left, on the right hand side of your screen. Control the length of the backswing so that there is no twisting of accumulator 3, so that that can maintain its condition P4 to P5.5, 6, and then start to gradually release. When you do that, the swing direction is more from the inside and the swing is shifted slightly more to the right. Obviously we had the discussion about the different types of players and the different preferences you may desire. I like, for a tournament player, I like the swing to be slightly directed to the left with the shorter irons for reasons we discussed, and obviously slightly more to the right with the driver. What we've got to feel though is the opposite for a spell. So what we've got here is we've got the ball well back in the stance, so ball may be just opposite the inside of the right heel, which means that we're hitting the golf ball very early in the grid, well before the centre of the swing, well before we start to turn the corner, and as a result we will, just by setting up in that manner, be directing the thing out more to the right. So it's going to allow you to feel more of what you need to add to the swing. So we just take the swing that I like on the right hand side. For you to keep making this swing, for you to become better at making this swing under the gun when it matters, we need to feel more of what you're demonstrating. So the drill on the left is emphasizing what accumulator 3 needs to do a little bit more. It's getting the club a little bit more from the inside at 6, shifting the swing direction a little bit more to the right at 6.5, getting you to hit out a little bit longer, 7 to 7.3, etc, etc. Do I want you playing like the one on the left? No, I want you playing like the one on the right. But we need to spend time making that swing on the left to really get familiar with the moves, familiar with the feels, so that we can take that out onto the golf course without any worries. The swing on the right, I'm just going to play it through one time for you, is how I'd like to see you swing. Certainly that's the P4 that I would like to see you develop. and start to groove. You've got the cane in place to do that. The feeling here is to swing to 3.7. From here on in, I really like it. Nothing dramatic, no severe moves, nothing jumping out at me. Just a nice balanced pass at that golf ball. Good luck with it, and I look forward to watching this one unfold during the season.